Welcome to Deeply Disturbing Things,
the podcast.
Who am I? I'm Naomi.
And I'm Macie.
And this is our podcast about disturbing things. We're two anxious counselors, and this is our therapy.
Did you say that whole thing backwards? That was odd.
It's because our images are mirrored on the video, and it's tripping me out, so everything's opposite day.
Yes. Welcome.
Dive in. Look, I am. Woo!
So, check-ins. I was trying to rack my brain about what even happened this week. It's been a really long week for me. I feel very work-focused.
Yeah, I've just been getting ready for my son's high school graduation tomorrow. Go Asher. He's graduating high school and college, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
No, so we're going to have a little backyard hullabaloo tomorrow.
Hullabaloo. Where do these words come from?
So I have to write a speech. All the parents get to do a 1-minute speech. He goes to a very small school.
Oh. I was going to say, wow. And that's brave to give the parents the floor.
I know. When my older son graduated from the same school, I did kind of like a joke speech. It was all like cliches, like follow your dreams, reach for the stars. It was like just a joke. But I think this one I'll actually, because, it's the last kid, the baby. I won't have any more, kids in school, so I think I'll probably get a little emotional. So I'm gonna probably keep it really short so I don't get emotional.
Are you gonna cry?
I probably would if I talk too long. So I'm probably just gonna keep it real short and sweet.
Well, that's nice. That's really nice. I don't think anything planned this weekend, but I do have something that's changed. I have now freed my Sundays. For the first time in
That's my free day.
Three to 4 years now, I've been seeing clients on Sunday where I only have one day off a week. And I start this weekend, and I'm really excited.
Sunday is my day I try to protect and just leave it open for whatever.
I'm so excited.
And not because it's the Sabbath, because I'm Jewish and Saturday is the Sabbath, but it's just the world we live in, most people have Sunday off. So
and that was, because I've had chunks of time, but what happens is everyone still calls you, everyone still emails you, you end up feeling obligated to work anyways, the times become flexible and you put people there anyway, and so it's on the weekends people don't call you, people don't email you, people want to be left alone on their weekends too. So I'm excited for the just don't reach out to me. I want to not exist for 2 days in the world.
That sounds great.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Do it. Don't exist. Disappear. Off the grid.
Yeah.
Woo, woo.
I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to sleep in on a day.
Do what you want.
I'm gonna.
I don't get to really. Only on Mondays if it's not a work day, because the Stella Queen.
Yeah, that's, you basically have a baby yourself.
She got up this morning at 6:30, which is early for her.
I feel like the fun aunt, I just get to show up and she said, Macie, Knuckles. That's my enjoyment of her. She's very fun. I entice her to do bad things and dance.
That's the fun job.
I know, just wreak havoc. Who cares?
Wreak the havoc.
We have conversations. She talks in baby talk, and then I just act like I know exactly what she's saying, and her eyes get so big because we're having a conversation at that point.
It's so cute.
It's adorable. That's all I have. Sundays. I'll let you know how this Sunday goes.
Okay. Well, I'm getting a kayak. And,
I want to go kayaking.
If you get a kayak, Paul's getting a kayak. We could do a kayak party. I have a deadline to get a kayak by the end of June.
Can't you get one sooner?
I set
You're making
that
it sound
deadline for
really
myself.
Oh, okay.
End of June. Well, I'm trying to get this patio project in, and then kayak is next.
Okay. Well, I will see if
first?
I can work on a kayak. I think it's actually me.
Oh, it is you. Have it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
For this?
Get them papers ready to flip.
Okay, so so I'm going to talk about factory farming of animals.
Oh, sounds really terrible.
It is really, I would say, like, honestly, this for me goes up to the same level as the fire building episode.
The station house fire.
Yes, because I still remember in a very traumatic way when I went to, I went to Whitworth.
The station nightclub.
Yes, and I was like this young, I want to help the world kind of person. And so I watched some PETA videos. I watched one like where they like were just, I mean, they were abusing the animals, let alone the like horrible situations animals were in. But I still remember like being like scarred from that. I vegan for 2 years after watching those videos, gave in to a large order of Arby's cheese sticks. On the way to my dad's house, I ate them all.
I was vegetarian for a long time, vegan for a short period in college. Cheese is my downfall. I fucking love cheese. It holds the world together.
Yeah, and other things.
And I think if I had my own dairy cow in the backyard and just
colored Daisy,
made my own cheese, I don't think the cow would really mind.
No.
I don't think it would be cruelty to the cow.
No, I agree.
But PETA would say, that cow needs to be free, roaming the countryside.
But that's not necessarily true. A lot of it, and I'll go over that today. Like, there's 5 freedoms that are kind of talked about for an animal, and I agree with them. It doesn't mean that they don't have to be eaten. Okay, and I am stepping aside from PETA a little bit. Because PETA is on the far extreme side of that, for sure.
You know my feelings about PETA and Sugar Benny.
I know.
Traumatized my Asher.
I know. But I think that there's a way that, I mean, you don't have to be a vegan to...
Also, I like leather shoes. I said it.
The problem is most marketing, most consumerism uses this big platform of factory farming with kind of a blind eye to all the problems behind it. I think that there could be better ways of going about it.
You know what I've always really thought? That if you're going to eat meat, you should hunt your own meat and like be a part of the experience and the process.
Or even just have to.
So you're not so separated. So it's not, a styrofoam tray thing in the store that doesn't even look like an animal.
One of the things that I saw. Be
closer to the source is what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's good. One thing that I saw was like, even if if every slaughterhouse in the world had a glass wall, people probably wouldn't eat that meat anymore. Like if they saw if I watched the process in some of these places, I would just say, no, I'm not going to eat that. Like, that's very clear. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we should be more connected to the source.
But if you knew how it happened from start to finish, where they lived a humane life, I'm not saying, even, cows should be just running free. I mean, maybe ideally. But, at least a humane...
Could they handle it?
A free life?
But is it our place to judge? What
I would say no.
A fulfilling cow life would look like.
And I think, again, when we get into this, I agree with the 5 freedoms.
I can't wait to hear this.
I know. All right.
I used to be a Greenpeace activist, hardcore, when I was a little kid. Hardcore. I went on every march. I was like...
I had the PETA stickers, and I spread them around Whitworth.
I was all green, all in with the Greenpeace. I can't wait to hear about this.
Okay. So that's kind of my history. I actually did not want to do this topic because of my experience in the past.
Are you going to talk about chickens without beaks?
I mean, I have to touch on some of it. I'm not going to go into huge detail. If you want to go see the horrific videos, they're on PETA's website. They're also all over YouTube. I've similar ones with circus animal. You can go and watch the trauma if you want to, but I didn't for this research. I just actually wanted to know more about the industry and what's done and why that's a problem in a variety of different ways. That was kind of my goal today.
Okay.
Less just horror show.
I think this really falls into deeply disturbing things.
It does.
So good job.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so
and I'll lighten it up after this with my topic.
I'm excited. That's good. So everything from like hamburgers, cheese, eggs, all of that comes, I mean, pretty popular items. Most of it comes from factory farming, which they're called really livestock is the way that a lot of the factory farmers will call the animals as livestock. So it's an intensive agricultural design to maximize profits using as few of resources as possible. So it's not just how they're treated, it is this consumerism aspect of we're going to try to do as much as we can with as little money possible. So that's, I think, a big part of this is very confined spaces, very little money for upkeep, for good food, all of those different things, and with large amounts of animals. So factory farming is an increasingly common way to raise animals for food, and even for like fur. That's still a thing. Animals aren't given any like real freedoms or liberties at all. They have a lot of body mutilations that happen, tight, overcrowded confinements. They live, many live their entire lives completely indoors and never go outside, ever. Some will stay in a cage where they never even get to turn around.
Yeah, that's the sad
ever, their whole life. And I
then
think
you have Kobe beef, living it up, daily massages, drinking Japanese beer.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, the green fields of Japan.
So this inhumane treatment that happens, it's really inhumane in a lot of ways. Like, again, if anybody saw this, they wouldn't be okay with it. A lot of factories are asked to do better practices, and they may say that, but there's very little regulation coming in and actually monitoring. So I think that's another problem. But often, like, baby cows will be separated from mothers as infants, and the moms just sit and cry for days, but that doesn't matter to them. Castrating males without anesthetics,
Rubber bands.
Yeah, rubber band in it. Or never once allowing animals to experience outdoors, like I mentioned. Okay, so the debeaking. Yes, it is the next thing.
I've never watched the video because I don't want to see it.
Look at the picture.
No.
Look at
I don't like chicken
Just
anyway.
look at it.
Chicken is gross to me
Just
anyway.
look at it. Just look at this one picture.
I don't even know what I'm looking at.
It's like a dog nail clipper. They put their beak into it and then, yeah. So chicken beaks are really a vital part of their physiology. It's not meant to come off, in case you're curious.
It's not an accessory.
Yeah. What do we know about, what do we know psychologically about stressed animals? Even stressed people. When we're really stressed, what happens?
A lot of stress chemicals.
And then what happens?
In your body.
Okay, now put a bunch of people in a confined space together. What happens?
They're going to be pooping and peeing on themselves.
Okay, what else? What else do stressed people do?
Well, you can't think well.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to just be in fight-flight mode, or you're going to just shut down.
Okay, so the first word there, fight, too. So
how do you fight without a beak?
So part of this is when people and animals are stressed, we tend to like bite or hurt each other to relieve our own anxiety.
Yes.
It does. There's actually it helps release cortisol in that. Yes. Thank you, Father, for getting to the fight spot. Yes. So it releases that cortisol in the brain. It's some sort of like tension moment that's being relieved. So they actually clip the beaks to have them not be able to peck each other to death and kill each other. So they try to do that to reduce damage versus actually like making it where they're not so stressed and confined. They just try to get rid of the quote unquote problem. So and boredom too. Boredom becomes a big thing with pecking and that sort of thing.
Are you going to be speaking about kosher at all?
Not in depth, but we can talk about it.
Okay, I'm not an expert, but
Me
I can
neither.
throw in a few tidbits.
Yeah, you probably know more
I
than
can
me.
sprinkle it in.
So oftentimes chickens can even kill each other when they're overly stressed. So that's part of the reason why they clip their beaks.
They're protecting the meat.
Mm-hmm. Which would just be like someone cutting off your hand. Like it's not meant to be cut off.
No, then I start biting, and then they pull my teeth out. Muzzle! I'd be muzzled.
You'd be muzzled
and shackled, because then I'd start kicking.
Yeah, you'd be the one in the cage where you can't move at all.
Yeah, that's when they
that would be you.
cinch you down so you can't headbutt.
Yeah, exactly.
Muzzled, feet, hands. Because I'm not going down easy.
So sometimes to eliminate damaging pecking and cannibalism, many companies instead cut off part of the chickens. They'll cut off like 15 beaks at one time. So they have like this machine that they like line the chickens up to, and they they just like do it in mass quantities. With chickens or those kept in non-intensive farming conditions, they do not become cannibalistic or need their beaks trimmed. So that's like the comparison of like if they're in a healthy environment, even moderately so, it's not a problem that chickens have. Like
they're not naturally pecking each other.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then we have, I'll make you look at this picture too. This is a piglet.
It's a pig.
It's a little pig baby getting its tail docked.
So sad. I was just watching Peppa the Pig with Stella. Now it's like all I see is Peppa
getting his tail clipped. So they do this because apparently, like the bottom of the tail, again, when pigs are stressed, they'll bite at each other's tails. And so they dock it to prevent the biting and possible infection of damage caused by each other.
Oh.
But it's just, again, like you're putting a Band-Aid on a much bigger problem.
And you're taking away part of these animals' bodies.
Yeah. Oh. So it's designed to remove the tuft, the tail part. It's also designed to cause pain on the pig's tail so that they are more actively avoid being bitten. So they'll skirt their butt away from another pig that's trying to get their tail.
I would too.
Yeah.
Owie tail.
Owie tail, don't touch. In cows, tail docking is performed to make milking easier and more comfortable for the workers. The dairy, because you know how they swat the workers with their tails like they would a fly?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's okay.
I'm from the city.
The dairy industry reports benefits for cows in terms of improved hygiene. But there's a lot of studies that just say doesn't really matter.
Okay. So it's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's actually prohibited in several European countries to do that. But North America hasn't banned the practice. So animal confinement. This is one of the ones that just seeing an animal in a cage that's how they've lived their entire life. I'm not even that against raising something and having it become a meal later, but it's just their life is literally miserable. What kind of life is that to even live in the in-between? Awful.
It's disturbing for sure.
So the most intensive confinement system for cows is called a tie stall. It's used for dairy cows. Each cow spends all her time tied into a single stall, followed by a loose stall in which cows are allowed to roam around in a small shed. They live their whole lives indoors. So they get their little spot to shuffle around and they go right back into milk again, but they never get to go outside.
Isn't that the way it is with veal too? They're not supposed to move around because the meat will be more soft and tender if they don't have muscle development. Have
muscle mass, yeah. Mm-hmm. One study found that confinement of any sort, when compared with raising cows in a pasture, had negative effects in the cow's welfare in general. Many chickens raised for meat, known as broiler chickens, are kept in what are called battery cages with roughly the same amount of space as a piece of lined paper. So here's a piece of paper. This is the space that they live in width-wise.
It's no life.
It's no life. So female pigs used for breeding are held in gestation crates so that they cannot turn around for the whole duration of their lives. So it's just constant breeding babies. And then we have genetic manipulations that happen. So this is often to try to get that store-looking food, that like perfect chicken breast. They'll often put in so many chemicals into the chicken to make that chicken breast so
the big chicken
large.
boobies.
But what happens is when you get those really big things, like some of these chickens can't even walk because their bodies are so out of proportion.
I don't even like chicken breast. If I'm gonna eat chicken, it's the boneless, skinless thighs all day.
Ew, you're that person?
I'm a dark meat.
I mean, I like the breast. I do. But it's... Who orders chicken thighs?
That's all. If I don't like chicken, but if I'm gonna cook chicken, I get the boneless, skinless thighs every time.
Wow.
I think they're more flavorful.
Tastes more like chicken. Less like chemicals, perhaps.
I don't know. It just seems moister. Moist.
Gross. So, yes. It can also lead to worsening conditions for animals. Cows are often grown without horns, which enables more cows to be packed into a smaller area. So this may increase farm outputs. It also is bad for animal welfare again. Genetic modifications also carry risk for humans and our health. Over time, acquiring such desired traits in farmed animals can lead to individuals becoming nearly genetically identical, which augments their risk for CAFOs.
Because there's not enough genetic variants.
Yeah, the pandemic risk goes up higher, which we literally just got out of a pandemic.
Still in it a little bit. Not quite out of it.
That's true. Still, we are still in it. But this is like how this stuff starts, is like genetically we have reduced variation and it creates a risk.
That's why mutts are the smartest dogs.
Yeah. Under normal circumstances, individual genetic variations act as speed bumps for viral transmission. So when you don't get that variation, it makes virus transmission much faster, much quicker.
So I only buy like cage-free eggs.
Oh, I'm gonna talk about that.
But then I heard
before
that
you get too excited.
It's not what you think it
is. It
is.
isn't. I'm gonna.
It's not what I'm imagining. Like chickens frolicking,
no,
and leaping in a grassy field with like flowers and rainbows.
I'm going to talk about the labels on food here in a bit because I think that is important because there's a lot of things that mean not much, and it's good as consumers to know what those things are.
No,
so you're not because then they use it as a price point.
I actually really love eggs a lot. So
they'll raise the price and make you feel like it's something special. Like, oh, the money goes to the chickens. It doesn't.
Yeah, the most expensive eggs are the ones that you buy and they're like brown and still have a little poo butt on them.
It's
Why
true.
is that?
Because
are you going to speak to that?
I feel like you should speak to
I don't know why I have to pay more for less work going into the frontal product. Can't you just scrub those damn eggs?
Well, if you think about it this way, though, they're getting a lot of product from from a lot of chickens in a very small space with very little high quality food. So they can pump out those nice, shiny white eggs from these poor, grotesque, dying chickens. And all day long they can produce those. Where someone who brings it, from their backyard, from the chicken, that's much like you get far less eggs.
Did you hear about that guy recently that said his chicken laid a golden egg, but then they found that he had actually shoved that golden egg up the chicken's
Oh my gosh. Of course. See, like, what is wrong with people?
And then pretended the chicken laid the golden egg. That
does
poor
that?
violated chicken.
Who does that?
People. I blame social media, as usual.
If you could have a chicken yourself and have your own eggs. So
I don't have my glasses on.
I was going to say, can you stop squinting at the chat? The whole reason we started doing only Facebook group only. If you want to listen to our live cast, please join our Facebook page.
Group. Secret group.
That she manages.
No, I just feel if I can zoom in enough. I can
with your
it.
face, yes.
Yeah. That face zoom.
Okay, So there's a lot of reasons this still happens. Obviously, it's for money. Okay, so these beliefs are often cultural and at times can be attributed to a lack of understanding in what actually happens behind the scene. And then this kind of concept of like, what pain do animals actually feel? That comes up a lot of like with consciousness, and do they actually feel pain like we do? Or are we personifying an animal? I don't think so. I've seen animals hurt.
They're sensate beings for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and like, even if they don't have the same level of consciousness of like problem solving, or I don't know, like this type of thinking, doesn't mean they can't feel pain. That's the most basic part of our brain, the amygdala, right? Like, it's been there the longest.
I step on my cat's tail. There's pain happening. I have to go apologize. I have to go say sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that is the basic part of the brain that was developed first. Pain. It's there for a reason.
That's my best cat pain impression. Do you like that?
Yes. Okay, so why is it bad? Number one, animal welfare. Bad for them, obviously. Here's the 5 freedoms I talked about.
Yes, I want to hear these.
Okay, so these aren't actually from PETA, just so you know. These are from, this is an animal welfare philosophy. I actually saw it on ASPCA as well, had these listed.
I used to get little stickers from them.
Yeah, so
I belong to everything. I was going to be a vet.
Me
I was
too.
all in with the animals. I was World Wildlife Federation. I was ASPA, CA. I was PCA,
yeah.
I was Greenpeace. I was everything.
I know this, like, reading it, I'm like, I can't eat meat anymore. It's so bad. Okay, so 5 freedoms. Number 1, and so you tell me at the end if you think this means that, like, we can't ever have animals farmed for food, even if it's done healthily, because I didn't get that from this, but okay. So number 1, freedom from thirst, hunger, and malnutrition.
That just means taking care of your damn animal, which you should do.
Yeah,
anyway.
which if a dog was treated like, I mean, we wouldn't allow it. So why would, I don't know.
And to tie in the Judaism bit.
As we do.
As we do. We like to sprinkle in the Jewiness. You always are supposed to feed your animals before yourself. Like, that's a thing.
I have to do that because Boo Bear will not, he'll just glare at me.
Yeah.
Like, woman.
Yeah, so that's, your responsibility to take care of your animals first. So you wouldn't have your animals hungry and you're feeding your face.
Yeah. For that one, do you think that means that you can't still have an animal bred for food?
I think you can meet that for sure, and it'll give you a happier animal.
And probably better quality food.
Yeah,
too. Like,
I mean, isn't that the
better.
whole thing behind the Kobe beef?
I mean, yes, yeah.
Is that, they're skipping and doing backflips out in their green pasture and drinking their beer, and they're relaxed, they get their massages, and so, like, a happier animal is going to give better meat.
That's my principle for counselors in my agency, is if they're happy, they're going to
give better meat.
We'll give better counseling. It's this, wow. See, okay, number 2, freedom from discomfort and exposure. So this would be things like, not having, because I know this, like with horses, you're required to, sorry, Naomi's zooming in.
Zooming my face in to see the comments.
You're like way behind, so you should just let it pass.
A comment about beaks.
I know. Cut off your cat's beak. What's the context, I believe.
My cats don't have beaks. Do they?
So freedom from discomfort and exposure. The way that I view this is like, okay, when I had a horse, one of the requirements is that they have some sort of shelter to go into. Like, they're not going to be out in the elements sitting in 100-degree sun or in freezing degree temperatures. Right. And so say if they're also wounded, your response, like, you could get in trouble if you don't take them to the vet or have a vet come out and look at them. Like, they should be tended to if there is some sort of illness or ailment, that sort of thing. That's why.
This is probably a good time to sprinkle in some kosher stuff.
Go for it. Whenever you find relevant.
If the meat is injured, it's not kosher. So you don't eat
That is good to know.
roadkill. You don't.
Oh yeah. That's a good point.
So if there's any injury to the meat, damage to the meat, it's not kosher. So you can't have kosher meat that's not well taken care of.
Yeah. Okay, so I still think you can do that while raising an animal for meat. I think you can meet that demand.
You shouldn't be having animals if you can't meet that demand, in my opinion.
But many do.
I know, and it's sad, and it breaks my heart.
So number 3, freedom from pain, injury, and disease. Again, same thing. You should be able to get medical care for your animal if you are an owner of it.
Or you shouldn't have them.
Yeah. Number 4, freedom from fear and distress. So that's like not abusing your animal. Like if that guy...
But this is here where I think it's starting to get into that area where people may not consider it because you may not think the animals experience that. And that they're just for our use. Only.
But I don't think it's that they don't experience it. It's that you don't care that they experience it. Like it's that.
Right, because they're here just to serve us.
You know, a dog that's been beaten and you raise your hand and they like duck away. That's fear. That's the brain. That's the amygdala doing a response. Like it obviously is
stuff
there.
Just makes me so upset.
It's sad. So I would say like within the person's control. Like, I mean, if a coyote comes in and scares the animals, I don't think that's in anyone's control. But, you know, it shouldn't be the owner going and terrorizing the animal.
No, and you can set up conditions.
Exactly. Like, if you
that they'll be safe.
Yeah, if I had a horse that was going around and like biting and damaging another horse, you put up a separator. They're not allowed to be together anymore. Like, you take steps to mediate it.
You are separated. Go to your corner, horse.
And the last one is freedom to express normal animal behavior.
Oh.
Like, how can you disagree with that? I can't disagree with that.
Oh, you gotta be able to have your horsey energy.
Yeah, like, be able to, like, let a mama pig and a baby pig bond. Like, let them nuzzle each other. I don't know, like, let the baby cow hang out with mom after they give birth. You know, I don't know. It seems logical.
If we didn't have stores and stuff to go and buy meat, and you know,
you had to go to the butcher.
Well, or if I had the kind of lifestyle where I kept raised my own animals and then ate them later, I don't see that as a problem.
But that's a big thing though, is it's all about convenience. Like, people will just look the other way because it's more convenient to do so.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, I think, in general with our society. Like with social media, we've talked about that, like the convenience factor all the time and just doing what feels normal. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what it's a styrofoam tray or plastic wrap. It's like, it's so far removed.
Yeah, it's just
from the source.
It's dinner already.
I think that as long as we can stay connected to the source and we're okay with that as an individual. Then
we had turkeys for a while.
Do you?
And like we ate at least one of those turkeys. But it was like, you know, they lived a good life. Like, it's nice to be able to say, like, they lived a good life and, you know, thank you so much for letting me eat you now.
What I don't like is the hypocrites, though, where you just get so militant and adamant, but then you're, you know, like, so focused on what other people are doing, but you're not being a completely enlightened human yourself in a lot of other areas.
Well,
like,
this is a good, it's a good place for decoy from summer camp, which is take care of yourself. Just do some decoy, take care of yourself. But I think that, like, advocating is separate. Like, advocating to, like, if I talk to you, it's not really my place to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. But there are forums, there's legislation, there's different ways that you can go and advocate. If you're my friend, I can talk to you about it and just see if you're open to that info. And if you're not, oh well. And that's it. Like, you don't need to push your stuff on other people in general, really, with anything.
Well, I've known a lot of militant vegans.
I've known a few too.
Who are not strict vegans. And then it was like, well, you're just a hypocrite.
I've seen that too, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard, but, like, you don't, it's almost like, like, you don't get to make other
Pick
people
and choose.
feel bad and
Yeah.
then pick and choose yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, be militant and then just leave other people alone.
Yeah. Just do your thing.
Yeah. Whatever.
You want to be
good.
a fake cheater vegan? Do it.
Be a fake
But
cheater vegan.
don't get down on other people because they can't live without cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Me.
Yeah.
That's me.
I mean, ultimately, like, it's not my place to decide what other people do, and I don't want them to decide for me either. So,
if I could fit my own dairy cow in the backyard, I would do that and just grow my own cheese. But you see the size of my backyard. I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, you barely grow a plant, so.
I'm trying so hard. You saw the dead plants in my counseling office?
Yeah, if you listened to our podcast a few weeks ago, Naomi bragged about her plants on the wall that she was using a ladder to water. They're not doing so hot.
They're completely dead and done. They're done. They're not revivable.
A ladder, an extra step to taking care of the plants that you're bad at taking care of anyways. It's okay. Get a cow. See what happens.
I bought some succulents, so I'm going to swap them out with some succulents and see if that goes a little better.
They tolerate things much better.
I'm hoping they will tolerate a harsh lifestyle.
Make sure their substrate is good. Do you have a rocky substrate?
I have rocks in the bottom, then some soil.
Okay. We'll talk later. Environmental impacts. So it's not just about animal welfare. There's also to the environment. So animals require water, medications, climate controls. They rely on fossil fuel energy sources and shelter. But food is one of the biggest resources. So they have to use lots of land to plant crops such as corn and soy to feed the animals. In the Amazon rainforest, crops for animal feeds are among the primary drivers for deforestation.
Mm.
I didn't actually know that.
And aren't cow farts actually ruining our atmosphere?
The methane gases, yeah. So there's also pollution from the factories in general, contaminating the air, land, water around there. There was a food and water report that a single hog produces around 1.5 tons of manure every year. And all the hog farms in the U.S. produce a total of 167 million pounds of waste, which is equivalent to half the human population's waste.
Wow, I didn't realize pigs shit so much.
Right? And hog waste is really dangerous because it's not treated before it's released into the environment, and it can contaminate the groundwater. So there's a lot of groundwater contamination from that. All right, human health issues. So these farms tend to show up in low-income rural areas with a lot of minority communities because they tend to complain less than the white upper-class people. So they put these farms in these areas that are, it's again like the socioeconomic struggle that happens with putting these bad
shit runs downstream.
Yeah,
that's so fucked up.
Pig shit farms next to these people's communities. The environmental pollution from these farms then drive businesses into lower income communities, or it drives them out of those low income communities. And they put up less of a fight about it. Because and let me correct that, not just less of a fight. They don't have as much money to do anything about it, which is
not enough power.
Yeah, exactly.
Not enough voice.
Which can cause things like bacterial contamination in meat, such as salmonella, E. coli, all of those. And that comes at it'll be like once every 6 months you hear about some outbreak
throw
from
that Costco romaine lettuce or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That tortured romaine lettuce. I hate the argument when people are like, well, we don't, talk about vegetable quality of life, like in killing a vegetable.
No, we don't, because we have to eat something.
I mean,
I can't just suck rocks.
Go suck rocks. It's the new best insult. Go suck rocks.
I eat mostly plant-based. I'm mostly plant-based diet, but I live with 2 adult boys who are meat eaters. Like,
who don't know how to make mac and cheese themselves.
I have to cook something that they're gonna eat. I mean, if I could just make tofu for them. they would just go out and buy some other food. But
yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
I think I do mostly plant-based. I mean, I would love to be more connected with the source of my food. I would love to go actually hunt it. And if I could handle that, I would feel like, okay, I deserve to eat this meat because I can handle that emotional experience of like taking that animal.
Have you ever hunted before?
But I've never hunted before.
I have to say, maybe
I fished.
I fished too. There's still a photo of my dad and me when he went hunting with me as a small child, and I'm posing in the picture holding up the dead deer head.
Oh my God.
As a good dad's daughter would. And like, I'm
good
okay
dad
with
daughters
that.
hold up deer heads.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with like having the, like, when my mom contacted like a local source farmer and like we split a pig and she had half the pig, I had the other half, and like I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
The food's better, it tastes better, the quality's better.
I could live without red meat. I could live without chicken.
It's not red meat, but you were listing.
I was listing.
You were listing.
I do like fish. I could live without
fish.
it. I'm also okay with fishing my own fish.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to skip the step between fishing it and then eating it.
I just don't want
like
the
someone else
tortured.
to do that in between parts.
I don't want the animal like tortured before I eat it. That's all. That's all I care about. Like that part.
No, I wanted to live
for their whole life.
All chickens should live like Kobe cows. There should be Kobe chickens.
Well, and so the last health problem for humans, or one of them, is the antibiotic resistance that we kind of talked about. So it's a looming health threat. Animals are often given antibiotics throughout their lives to prevent illness. And honestly, when I was reading this, it made me think about like when we have like soldiers in Iraq and they're giving them constant like pain medicine, opiates to deal with the pain so they can just keep doing their job, and they come back with all these addiction problems, and it's like in their system. Same thing, like we just keep alive so we can then have this product to then kill you. So they're given very liberally. There's very few laws about antibiotics with animals. It can create superbugs. Everyone has heard this by now with all of the disease talks.
All the disease talks.
Trace amounts of the bacteria may be eaten directly by consumers of factory farm products, causing severe and sometimes incurable illnesses. The United Nations estimates antibiotic resistance could kill 10 million people and force 24 million people into extreme poverty by 2050. 24 million people. We're pausing as Naomi takes
I just got
a mom moment.
Babysitting update. It doesn't
not sounding good.
Doesn't sound good.
Does she listen to the podcast? No? Grandma's not trustworthy.
Grandma is attempting to change a poopy diaper, so we'll see how this goes. Asher texted me and was like, "Can you come change the diaper?" And he said, "Never mind, Grandma's going to attempt it." And I'm like, "Okay."
Oh gosh.
I don't know when the last time she changed a poopy diaper is. Hopefully it goes well.
The world may never know.
Well, I'll know when I go back downstairs with the poo flung everywhere.
Okay. So antibiotic resistance could kill 10 million people and force 24 million people into poverty by 2050. This is according to the United Nations.
Okay.
It's a lot.
That's bad.
That's bad. That's not good. Okay. So rural communities, again, there's a lot of bad impact to them with small farms. But just to kind of talk about that a little bit more. Okay.
Are you going to talk at all about capybaras?
I'm not.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no.
Because they are giant guinea pigs to me.
Your love of life.
And I don't think they should be eaten on, rotisseries.
Oh, yeah. No, again, I chose not to go into, because it all made me so sad and I didn't want to. So, okay, so farms though, U.S. farms, pause. A lot of people argue, well, like, you're attacking farmers, like, we need to keep people in business. Okay, but these aren't farmers. These aren't local farmers who are doing this. Our actual number of local farms in the U.S. decreased by 50% between 1960 and 2002. So half of them gone, while the total number of farmed animals continues to go up. So as of 2020, there are roughly 1.6 billion animals confined within 25,000 factory farms across the U.S. Roughly 99% of animals in the U.S. are raised on factory farms. And a single broiler chicken factory farm can produce about 500,000 birds every year.
So actually attacking these factory farms is going to help the smaller farmer.
Because it gives them, one, more competition in the market. Having them have a monopoly of 99% in the market isn't okay. They're taking up land, they're taking up resources that the local farmers need to be able to have their produce. And to be able, because that local farmer, like you said, has to charge a lot to equal out how much they pay out.
I have a limit to how much I'll pay for eggs.
But if you imagine though, like if you had more local farmers, that cost would go
There's some
down.
eggs that are like $6 a dozen
I know.
at the store. I won't go that high. I'll go into the threes, but that's it.
If resources weren't so expensive, because these big conglomerates are making millions of dollars off of people, then they could do it at a lower price. So it is a luxury at this point to have an animal that's not tortured.
And it shouldn't be that way.
No. Okay, so with how animals are killed, that part.
Yeah.
Do you know how they're killed?
Do I want to know how they're killed?
So there's the Federal Humane Slaughter Act was enacted to try to have animals at least be unconscious before they are killed.
Well, how do they do that? Knock them in the side of the head?
Well, so like different methods. So these regulations, first of all, aren't like really enforced by the USDA. There's nobody that goes out and actually makes sure that it's done. There just isn't. So these audits don't really take place, which is unfortunate.
So how do they kill them? I'm curious.
So at the best of times, a trip to the slaughterhouse can mean more than a painless death. Some chickens are forced to endure a live shackle slaughter. This is where their legs are jammed into like metal clamps. They're hung upside down. Many have broken legs by this point. They're just kind of tossed around. I mean, I've seen videos of this behind the scenes stuff in these factories, and they just they treat it like an inanimate object. They don't treat them like animals. They put them in these shackles upside down. And then they are kind of conveyor belted. A lot of these places are very machine oriented to get the most out as possible. Carries the chickens over to this water bath so that dips their head under the water to electrocute them. That's supposed to knock them unconscious. Then when they go and get their neck slit and bleed out, that's kind of the goal, is that they're unconscious. However, many chickens aren't unconscious by that point. Like the shock didn't work and they're still alive, and they still get their, again, conveyor belt system. They go and get their neck slit, and their bodies are then thrown into scalding hot water to defeather them. So that's pretty horrific. And that's probably one of the single greatest causes of animal suffering in slaughterhouses. Like chickens get honestly really abused.
Is it because they don't have fur?
I mean, maybe.
They're looked down on as a lesser being.
Well, and again, a lot of these chickens like can't even walk because they're so like pumped full of like genetic modifications and antibiotics that they're not. I mean, they become almost non-living things, and they're treated like that.
So sad.
Cows are killed using a stun gun, which is essentially a gun. Here they have it lined up on the cow in that picture, and it shoots a metal rod in and then back out of their brain. So goal being again to kill them instantly. Pigs tend to be electrocuted through an apparatus that's kind of put on their temples, and they're electrocuted. So, I mean, that's how it happens. I mean, and I think that like the death is going to be gruesome at some point. So to me, like I'm less focused on how they die again, as long as I mean, it's the leading up to point for me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to not make killing a not killing.
I think with kosher, you split the throat, and the idea is that it bleeds out clean.
Mm-hmm.
So there wouldn't be no, like, swinging it around by shackles or tasing ahead of time.
Yeah. So what is the solution? I think it's a kind of a mixed bag of answers depending on who you talk to. That's really what I found. And there's a lot of downsides for factory farming. The practice is perpetuated by, there's a lot of nations and corporations that back these places. So it's really hard to take them down because there's a lot of money in it.
Mm-hmm.
A food system without factory farms, which would be far more equitable and just, far less damaging to people and animals and the environment, is really long overdue. But unfortunately, we haven't had a pandemic for that yet. So we haven't learned our lesson. That's my topic.
Is it only pandemics that teach us lessons?
And only for like a 2-year period. And then
because we have a very short memory.
Everyone's mind blank slates and they go back to doing the same stupid shit they were doing before.
Exactly.
I'm ready for your light topic.
I think people need to just be intentional about what they eat.
Oh, how did I miss the labels?
Labels?
Keep looking up your stuff. I said I was going to talk about the food thing, like the food labels, which I totally was. Okay, so you mentioned the cage-free.
Yes.
Yeah, the cage-free chickens. Often what that means is that they aren't in those little like paper size things, so they may have like a little area that they can go to.
So they can turn around.
And often it's like almost like with the cows, where they'll have like a little space that they can go to in a group, and then they go back in that sort of environment. Most of the time, still not actually outdoors. They're still indoors the whole time, still in a mass group of them. They're just not in a single cage, so they can use that verbiage.
So it's still not that image that I have.
It's not the image at all.
Chickens frolicking outside in a green pasture with sunshine.
It's just it's probably something they already have. Like, okay, the chickens are herded in this big group anyways. Great, they're not in a cage. Slap that on there, get an extra $1 a buck for your case of eggs. The other one is like $5 for like it. The what is it? The non-hormone chicken and pork, I believe. Those two are actually like FDA will not allow that anyway. So when you see that sticker on it of like no blah 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 antibiotics, that's actually not allowed anyway. So all of the food products don't have it. It's just like a sticker.
If you're like, listen to our podcast, we don't murder people.
We don't.
Well,
great.
Nobody murders people on a podcast.
No.
That we know of.
Are you going to start a trend? So it doesn't actually mean anything. All of them don't do that, and it's just a sticker to lure you to purchase it. What are some other ones that you can think of, the labels?
Well, I'm always skeptical about organic because you don't really know what that means.
That's one that actually means nothing. Like when it says natural or organic, that's when you get into
natural means nothing.
Yeah, you get in the debate of what does that mean? Oh, no antibiotics, which you can't do anyways.
I mean, anything could be natural.
Yeah, it's a natural chicken.
It's natural that we develop chemicals because our brains have that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's something that isn't actually regulated, so it means absolutely nothing. It's just a statement. It's marketing, so they know what consumers. Yeah, they know what consumers don't like, and they know what the catchphrases are, and then they market it. So I would actually be more like, I would look at it as like they're selling me something here, and at least question it and look it up before you just go.
I love it when I get like an egg hookup by somebody in town where they're like, "Oh, I just have too many eggs."
Sachi was sharing that Stephanie has chickens and she.
Do you want some eggs? Like I've had those over the years at work, but they never like last forever.
Well, it's because chickens die.
And I'll pay, you know, it's usually like, bring your carton and $3 and I'll fill it up. And I'm like,
No, it's
awesome.
good.
I'll wash the poo off. I don't even care.
I loved having fresh eggs. Like it is like different.
They taste way better.
They taste better. They look different. Like it's just more better.
And I love me some eggs.
Sometimes I'll have eggs and like they just like I'll eat them and then I feel like nauseous after like store-bought eggs. I know. But who knows why? It could be that they are, I don't know what they put in the chickens to make things the way they are.
Yeah, chicken is gross. It is. I don't know what the solution is. I need to learn how to fish better.
That's the solution, is learn how to fish.
I'm a pretty good fisher. I just never really have an opportunity to go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a boat, you know. I have a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
I fish from the dock. It's limiting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
all
that's
right.
all. Go for it.
You have no idea what I'm going to talk about right now.
I have no idea. No.
Okay. I'm going to talk about one of the most disturbing children's films of all time. Pinocchio.
I'm so excited.
Have you seen Pinocchio? Please tell me you've seen Pinocchio,
yes.
The Disney Pinocchio.
And I know that I'll regret saying this later, but I love that show as a child. I loved watching Pinocchio.
Do you remember like anything that like really stuck with you from that movie? From watching this little kid?
Mm-hmm. What I remember that it actually scared me. Like, it was a scary kids movie.
It was.
I remember it was scary. I remember like probably getting nightmares from it. I remember like the pressure to not lie and like the nose getting longer. It was like, oh, everyone will know.
Really
everyone
sticks
will
with
know.
you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't forget that.
Mm-mm. And it did. It's like, as a kid,
like, who wants their nose to grow longer?
This notion of
nobody.
Like, everyone will know if you're a liar.
Yes. Yes. So, very terrifying, as you said.
It was scary, yeah. It's like all the it's like Dumbo.
Oh, I can't watch Dumbo.
Dumbo's rough.
I can't watch it. It's too sad.
Lion King, I cry every time when Mufasa dies. It's sad. This is brutal.
Yeah.
I don't see that in like adult movies.
It's very sad.
Kind of raw carnage.
How are you gonna kill this big-eyed
mom dying instantly?
Yeah, that's the same with Dumbo. The mom dying. Like, I can't deal. So Pinocchio is also considered one of the greatest animated films ever made.
I'm sure
it has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which I agree with almost all their ratings. Unlike IMDb, whatever it is. IMDb. Yeah. So this movie came out in 1940. It was based on an 1883 Italian children's novel, which is actually way more brutal and dark and disturbing than the Disney film. Like, the Disney film lightened it up. But I'm not going to really talk about that book because I've never read it. But I did read a lot about it, and it is way darker. So Disney did the Disney thing to this book. So this was the second animated film Disney put out. Snow White was the first.
I didn't know that.
So it was Snow White and then Pinocchio. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Let me adjust myself. I'm
in
the creaky chair.
Creaky chair today.
So this film opens with Jiminy Cricket. Remember Jiminy Cricket?
Yes.
The little cricket?
Yes.
And he hops into old Geppetto's wood carving studio. So there's all these clocks and music boxes and toys. So Geppetto does all these like wood things.
Yeah, he's like carving. And, yeah.
And then Jiminy Cricket notices a marionette, and this is Pinocchio. There's also Geppetto's pet cat Figaro.
Oh yeah, Figaro.
And Goldfish Cleo.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Geppetto is lonely.
Oh, Jiminy Cricket. Just remember that was in this, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't remember Jiminy Cricket?
I didn't at first that he was part of it. No,
He's a little cricket.
No, I remember
with, like,
now.
A hat.
No, I know
hat,
what he looks like. I didn't.
Kind of dapper.
Yes. He had the little cane.
Yeah. So Jiminy notices the marionette. This is Pinocchio. Geppetto also has, oh yeah, I said that. So Geppetto's super lonely, and that night wishes on a star that Pinocchio would be a real boy. Yes. Yes.
How do I remember that? See, this
because
is
Disney
it's the
iconic Disney song. That's the song from this movie, and it became the iconic Disney song. And part of it played before every Disney movie with like the castle.
Oh, that's why. Yep.
And the little star would go pew, pew. Yeah, so that all came from Pinocchio.
Wow.
So the good fairy, if she is really good, we'll have to decide.
I don't even remember the good fairy.
So when Geppetto wished, then the good fairy came.
Oh, that's right.
She was like glowy and blonde and blue dress.
They always are, aren't they?
They are. And then, yeah, the dark fairies or witches were always dark haired.
Dark haired. Wonder what that could mean.
Well, all of it.
It means all of it.
So the good fairy grants his wish, but only partially and with conditions.
Sounds like a loan shark to me.
So Pinocchio is brought to life, but he's still made of wood. And he can only become a real boy if he can prove himself brave, truthful, and unselfish. So brave, truthful, and unselfish, that's a lot. I mean, I think those are things maybe we can strive for and set intentions for, but
that's like 3 things
that's
most people break in a day.
Yeah, to be brave, like that's tough, and truthful.
All the time. Yeah.
Tough, unselfish, tough. Sometimes I want to take a selfish.
Yeah, if your nose got big every time anyone who doesn't happen, we'd all like our noses would be across the
We'd
world.
Be fucked. I'd have a tree house, I'd have a swing. So Pinocchio can move around on his own. He doesn't need strings, and he can talk, but still made of wood. He still has like the hinged joints. So the fairy then lays a bunch of responsibility on Jiminy Cricket and designates Jiminy Cricket as Pinocchio's conscience.
Okay.
And tells Jiminy Cricket he needs to help guide him and teach him like about right and wrong and make sure he's on the path of straight and narrow.
Like a mentor, perhaps.
Yeah, so that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And the fairy leaves with the words, "Be a good boy and always let your conscience be your guide."
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of double meaning.
Yeah. Referring
to Jiminy Cricket as his conscience, but also like you need to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The fairy's kind of setting Pinocchio up for failure at this point. I mean, he just awoke.
As counselors here, let's talk about this. Like realistic expectations.
From being a fucking marionette.
Yeah.
And he's laid with this incredible pressure that if you want to be a real boy, you need to be brave, truthful, unselfish. Geppetto, this poor old lonely wood carver, you know, sobbing every night out of loneliness, like, you don't want to let Geppetto down, do you? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fucked up because it's Geppetto's wish, but all the responsibility is put on Pinocchio and then Jiminy Cricket.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of kids who are adopted and they have a lot of behavioral problems because they often have a lot of trauma in their past, and then like the new parents are like, why are they behaving this way? And they get very punishment focused.
Very negative.
Yeah, and then like
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, there will be a learning curve.
Yes, well, the good fairy. I
don't think this fairy
didn't allow a learning curve. So Pinocchio just awoke, very innocent, very impressionable, you know, and the good fairy expects him to be able to resist temptation. There's a whole song about temptation. Geppetto, very stoked Pinocchio's alive, but in shock. So the very next morning, Geppetto sends Pinocchio off to school. So right away, here's a test. Like you've gone from marionette.
You've gone from a piece of wood
to an woken, but not woke.
Yeah.
Piece of wood. So on the way, Pinocchio is spotted by this con artist fox named Honest John. Good name.
Yeah.
So Honest John convinces him to seek fame and fortune by joining Stromboli's marionette show.
This is where it gets scary.
And become a star as a live puppet without strings. Is this coming back to you now?
Oh yeah, no, full force. I'm like picturing the movie.
So you remember the song "Hi Diddly Dee," an actor's life for me.
Oh, now yeah.
So they sing that. It's very catchy.
Yeah.
Jiminy tries to warn Pinocchio. And is like, remember what I said about temptation? That's him. Pointing to Honest John.
Oh.
And Pinocchio says, oh no, that's Honest John.
Because he's a naive little boy.
Yes, it's way too much pressure that fairy put on him.
He doesn't know any better yet.
Yeah. So Pinocchio is sold to Stromboli by Honest John. He performs and he's wildly successful.
Because he's so good at being himself.
Well, because he's a puppet without strings. So, I mean, that's like
yeah, didn't he sing a song about that too? And
yes. I've got no strings to hold me down, to make me fret or make me fret. I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me. Yeah, that song. So part of what I'm struggling with this initial like setup is Geppetto's the one that made the wish. It wasn't Pinocchio.
He didn't say, I really want to be a real boy. I want to be a real boy.
It's Geppetto. But Geppetto isn't given these stipulations like, oh, if you want a real boy, you need to teach your real boy to be brave and truthful and selfish.
Be a good man.
No, Geppetto is just like out of the loop with this. All this pressure is put on a fucking cricket and a wooden, just made into an alive marionette boy. Yeah. So Jiminy Cricket, sees Pinocchio's success and like doubts himself and his guidance, thinks maybe this is wrong. Also, Jiminy Cricket's kind of a perv in this movie. Well, here's a picture of him holding
and he
onto
touches
the butt of like one of the
porcelain
cuckoo clocks.
doll.
Okay, you can say that. Never mind.
Yeah, it's like a
it's like
the chicken,
the butt clock of the cuckoo clock, and also doing the puppet show. There's a lot of like skirts flying up, and Jiminy was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here?"
Because we can't not put sex stuff in a Disney movie.
Yeah, so Jiminy, kind of a perv, little skirt chaser there. So Pinocchio has this show. It's a big success. He's like, okay, great, I'm gonna go home for the night. But then Stromboli locks him in a cage, a rusty cage. And if you're a Soundgarden fan, I hope Rusty Cage is going through your mind right now, as it is mine. Meanwhile, poor old lonely Geppetto is out wandering in the streets in the rain looking for Pinocchio. It's so sad. So
yeah,
sad.
I remember that scene too. It is sad.
So sad. The fairy appears at Stromboli's place because she gets summoned. And she's questioning Pinocchio about what happened. Like, why didn't you go to school? And he tells some lies. And each time he does, his nose grows longer. So remember that scene?
Whoop.
Where it starts growing and then it turns into like an actual tree, like branches and flowers. And there's like a bird's nest and then like a bird family. Like it just keeps getting progressively worse. And so the fairy teaches him a lesson and says, a lie keeps growing and growing until it's as plain as the nose on your face. And the lies aren't totally lies. I mean, if we consider Pinocchio's developmental age.
Maybe 5.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe even younger. Just being awoke that, earlier that morning.
I mean, he does.
From wood.
Yeah, he should just be like baby on the floor, but he's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's more exaggerations and trying to stay out of trouble than outright lies, I felt.
Yeah, it's the like white lies.
Like he
that
incorporated some of his experiences into the lies, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, monsters got me. Well, Honest John could be a monster.
Yeah. He turned into one.
That's right. But the fairy doesn't get on his developmental level. And so the fairy says, a boy who won't be good might just as well be made of wood.
What a C word.
So she helps him out of the cage, but says this is the last time she'll help him out.
Rude.
So then Jiminy and Pinocchio take off and they're headed home. Meanwhile, Honest John, the fox, the bad fox, meets a creepy coachman in a bar who offers him real money for stupid little boys. He wants the disobedient ones who play hooky from school.
Oh.
So here this coachman is preying on the vulnerable, you know,
The needy.
the ones who aren't going to go to school, who don't have supports in their life, you know, to keep track of them and make sure they stay on track. So the coach driver says he takes the boys to Pleasure Island. Do you remember Pleasure Island?
Oh, yeah, gross. Isn't that, okay, yes, that, but I was also thinking about, isn't that Epstein's Island? Or was that?
Pedophile Island.
Was it Pedophile Island?
But same, maybe.
Okay.
Same thing, maybe. I mean, this is...
Nothing should be called Pleasure Island or Pedophile Island.
No. And the coach driver says he takes the boys to Pleasure Island and, you know, that he'll pay good money for the boys. So this is clearly child trafficking in a Disney children's film.
As they do.
And it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So Honest John expresses some concern about the risk. He doesn't want to kill anyone.
Yeah, that was like the first. I remember that. Of like, yeah, there was like some moral,
like this leveling of badness here. It's like, oh, I'll sell somebody to a puppet theater,
but I'm not gonna like
kill someone.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, like yeah.
Yeah, like maybe I'll. Yeah, it's a different level.
Yeah, so Honest John is like put on a different level of badness, a different level of evil, like our last podcast. And the coachman is like higher level of evil.
He'd probably be like at least a 17 or a 20.
At least, yes. Yeah. And the coach driver man says not to worry, they never come back as boys. So telling Honest John he's not going to get in trouble because there's no evidence.
Yeah,
and
definitely a 20.
And at that point in the film, he turns into this super scary devil face and starts cackling, and like his face takes over the whole screen. And if you were seeing that in the theater, I mean, that'd be like what, 60 feet
terrifying
across, and it like turned all red. It was super scary. And then he said, "We meet at the crossroads at midnight." Do you remember my other topic I did?
Yeah, because your
about
topic
the
lined
devil.
Up. Well, and I did, yeah.
At the crossroads and how you can make deals.
Well, and I talked about that on the same day about the like 27-year-old deaths.
Yes, our topics totally linked up because I was talking about Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And that was one of the 27 Club. That was one of our synchronicity moments.
That was for sure. Okay, yeah, so we'll meet at the crossroads.
At midnight.
Basically, so we're going to make a deal with the devil.
He's the devil.
Yeah.
So they're saying he's the devil.
Look at how much we've learned from
this. We've learned I'm so smart. I can make such great conversation at a party.
Combinations.
If I was invited to a party to make combinations.
We make our own parties.
That's right, we make our own combinations. So, remember Jiminy and Pinocchio are on their way home. You know, they learn their lessons or whatever. But before Pinocchio can make it home, Honest John finds him because he's been offered cash.
Yeah.
A good money, real money this time. And he convinces him that he needs a vacation on Pleasure Island. And so he gives him a fake ticket because Pinocchio is innocent, doesn't understand.
Doesn't know.
He's like, well, you have a ticket already. It's just a playing card. And so he turns him over to the coachman to go to the happy land of carefree boys where every day is a holiday.
Well, and all of this is like made so Pinocchio looks like he's doing something wrong, but he's being manipulated, and
that's where I think it's kind of fucked up that the fairy put him in this unrealistic situation.
And maybe that's like a replica of life, right? Like, you're going to be manipulated. All these things, there are bad men out there. There are levels of evil out there.
I think Pinocchio is doing the best he can with what he has in that moment.
And a lot of people are, and they still get corrupted.
I feel for old Pinocchio. Mm-hmm. So they're on the coach. They're going to Pleasure Island. And then Pinocchio meets another boy named Lampwick. Mm. Remember Lampwick? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He's like the older, like, bad boy, juvenile delinquent. Cool.
Yeah, the kid you met when you went into inpatient that one time.
Well, that was me. Yeah. I was the kid they met. I'm like, let me tell you, it's my fourth time.
And then
here.
they come out, and then
Here's
I was like, so how did that go? What was that like for you? And they're like, yeah, I actually learned a lot of really bad things in inpatient. I'm like,
some new ways how to self-harm. You're like, what the fuck did I send you there for?
Well, there's no other option.
There's no other option. I know.
Gosh, and why do you have to be there? Go home.
I'm like, here's what you need to do if you want more cigarettes.
You're like, oh, you didn't kill yourself? It's because you're cutting the wrong way. Oh, you didn't? Oh, your parents found your pills?
You did that wrong.
Let me tell you some places you can hide it.
Here's how you wear long sleeves in the summer and get away with it.
Yeah. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that statement about, oh, no, I've met some of the worst influences in inpatient.
No, they come out, they're like, I made so many new friends.
I know.
Like, oh, God.
I know. They're like, I made the best friends in inpatient. I'm like,
and one hand you're like, great, you're socializing. On the other hand, you're like, what have you learned?
No, it's like you're socializing with all the kids who are like, it's not a place to socialize. It's just not.
No.
Sorry, this was a tangent.
That was a tangent. It needed to be said.
Child mental health specialist here. We feel
who work with teens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love them, but boy, you put them in a group, things happen.
Yes, you got to stay on top of those influences. Lampwick, which is an interesting name for a boy. So he's telling Pinocchio how great Pleasure Island is. No school. No cops.
What?
In a Disney movie, they're like, no cops. You can tear the joint apart and nobody says a word.
Okay.
So Jiminy's like trying to talk Pinocchio out of it, but it's useless. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Jiminy's sort of like the parents. You know,
nagging.
Yeah, and as kids get teens, like their peer group, that's the voice you're gonna listen to. Like parents become like in Peanuts, like.
Well, and that's where like counselors become helpful if they're willing to get in there and you have a good. You
can be that bridge.
Yeah, because if they trust you, they will, and they will listen to you.
You just gotta speak in their language.
Yeah, you gotta be like, yeah, parents suck.
Yeah, you'd be like, I know, school is so stupid.
This is really hard.
Which is the teacher you hate the most? Let's talk about it. And then you slip in like, okay, so how can we make you more, successful life?
I literally taught a teenager, I was like, if your parents are nagging about you about doing chores, if you use the certain communication skills, you can actually get them to do what you want. So if you do this chore in this way,
flies with honey.
And they ended up doing their chores in order to manipulate their parents.
I've done a lot of that. So let's count down the days until you can move out of the house.
Oh, okay. I've done that too. Oh my gosh.
So given that you're fucking stuck in this
prison for the next 6 months,
what can we do to make this as smooth as possible for you?
Yeah.
And that works. It does. It works. They're like,
They're like, okay, yeah.
Like, what if you just kind of went along with this one thing?
Yeah, like, what if you don't pick
did
fights?
Your chores?
What if you just did your chores?
What if you just went with it? Not because you want to.
No, because you want out.
Because you just want them off your back.
But then with that, they improve communication with their parents. They reduce conflict. They get closer with their parents. And
they're out of their room.
Yeah. And sometimes
they're connecting, they're participating.
And to be fair, sometimes parents are dicks and then they just get to go and that's fine. And they've learned skills.
That's right.
Either way, it works.
That's right. God, we're good. Cheers.
Cheers. I learned from the best, sitting right next to me.
I think my best tip, if you work with teens out there, is you have to act like you do not even care. Like you're barely interested in what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Like you're sort of bored and you're sort of like on your phone kind of and like not even like, okay, what, all right. Because if you care too much, they turn it off and they don't. You're like, you're danger, all of a sudden.
You're
like,
a parent. You're an authority.
Yes, you have to be
teacher.
like, whatever, like, you have to just not care. Like, it's not a big deal.
Who would come in all the time on their cell phone, and I would like. Eventually, I actually just pulled out my phone when
I'm like, oh, we're doing this,
and I was like, oh, are you ready? And they were like sitting there, like eager to go, and I'm like, oh, you good? Okay, yeah.
Oh, are we ready now?
I was like, okay, yep, okay. And then they were like confused, and then from then on, their phone was away because.
They realized. Yeah.
And without ever it being their problem.
Yeah, no, you don't want to make it their problem.
You have to be artful.
Yeah.
You have to make it a problem for them.
Exactly. You got to sneak it in.
Teens are fun.
I love teens so much. So on the islands, the boys can do whatever they want. They can eat whatever they want. Cake, ice cream, pickles, whatever. Be a glutton.
Ooh.
It's fine. There's no like, eat your vegetables, be healthy. And it's all free. But is it?
No.
And I think that was one of the things that, like, that was my takeaway as a kid was, this is amazing, but there's consequences. So I think that, for me as a little Naomi, was like, nothing's ever free.
I would have loved to have met a little Naomi.
I was a wild ragamuffin.
I feel like I lived the, like, everything's free as a kid just because I don't know, like, I was able to just go and have fun. I wasn't as rebellious as you, though.
Well, those consequences. And that's what I took away from this movie. Like, I was all in with Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Like, Pleasure Island, I was like, oh my God, this is the best. But, oh, no.
Like, I was totally the child, like, Pinocchio, you shouldn't do that.
Moderation.
Gonna get in trouble.
Is what I learned from Pinocchio.
I'm always the you're gonna get in trouble person. Like,
nothing's free.
I get that you want to do that, but
yeah, you were even allowed to fight in this. There was a rough house,
so
you could have a scrap. And there was Tobacco Row.
Oh yeah,
where you could smoke.
Talking about tobacco,
you could have cigars, chew cigarettes, whatever. And then there was even a model home that they could trash. So you could like break shit and like graffiti. And, I mean, it's a dream. So Lampwick's like, being bad's a lot of fun, ain't it? And Pinocchio agreed. But then the doors were locked. And the coachman said, give a bad boy enough rope and he'll soon make a jackass of himself. So that was some foreshadowing.
I remember now. Yeah.
Foreshadowing. So Pinocchio's like playing pool, drinking beer, smoking cigars. He's forgotten all about poor old lonely Geppetto.
He's like crying.
Jiminy's like over it and
he's
and
pissed
leaves.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I've tried. It's enough. I throw my hands up at this point. But as he's on his way out, he accidentally stumbles on Pleasure Island's dirty little secret. He finds a warehouse that's fine, full of donkeys. And there he sees the evil coachman grab one of the little donkeys who's wearing boys' clothes. And he hee-haws. And then the coachman just rips his clothes off him.
Yeah.
It's so violating.
Cha, you are no longer, you are an animal. This is how our topics relate.
Yes.
Donkeys
are being put in crates and they're labeled to like.
Oh, donkeys. Okay, sorry.
To the salt mine or to the circus.
To work to pull.
So this is child trafficking with a twist because they're being actually transformed into donkeys also. And so in one of the saddest moments in the film, the coachman discovers that sweet little donkey Alexander. Remember that one?
Yep.
And Alexander can still talk.
Mm.
And the coachman, you know, is like trying to shove him in a crate. And Alexander says, I want to go home to my mama.
So sad.
The coachman throws Alexander back into this pile of donkeys and starts cracking the whip. And then, like, the scene is just these donkeys that apparently can talk. They're all huddled together, and then there's this big shadow of, like, the coachman with his whip. So what happens to them? Are they killed? I mean, they're clearly not
boys anymore.
They're not boys. They're not going to be sent off because they can still talk because they're kind of not fully transformed.
They're alluding to that, like, we have to take care of you.
I think that they're being killed. Mm-hmm. So Jiminy realizes this is going to be Pinocchio's fate, so he rushes back to rescue him. But Pinocchio's already started to change. He has the ears, he has a tail, he's starting to hee-haw. Lampwick has already been fully transformed. And that scene is really scary, and they don't show his transformation, but they show it in a shadow.
Yeah.
So
where
I noticed
his legs
in this film,
kick out and
that like they use the shadow to show these really scary images, but it almost makes it more scary in the shadow, because shadows are scary in itself.
Yeah, it's like this
darkness.
Yeah, and it's something tragic happening.
Something that's so bad we can't let you see it.
Yeah, we can't even let you see it.
Yeah, you have to just see this symbol of it, this image. Yeah.
Horror.
Yeah, it's bad.
Transformation.
So they get out, they make their escape, but they get to old Geppetto's house, and he isn't there. And Figaro, the cat, and Cleo the fish are also gone. Then a note from Geppetto arrives. The good fairy said she wasn't going to help anymore, but it seems like this note came from her. I just don't understand
why. Like, you literally...
Because she's a bitch.
Okay, fine. All right.
But this note seems to come from her because it's like from the sky and in her blue colors. And the note tells Pinocchio that Geppetto has been swallowed by a whale named Monstro. And then
this seems so random now, like, as an adult looking, like, what? He was just swallowed by a whale because he was looking for him. He was
looking for Pinocchio and it's raining, remember?
I know, I get that, but, like, that's a big stretch, like, raining to swallowed by a whale.
But this whale is scary. Look at that fucking whale.
I know, it's a scary-ass whale.
I don't know.
Yes,
imagine, like, that's 60 feet wide when you're a child on the screen. Like, fuck that. So
I remember this part a lot.
Pinocchio and Jiminy go to save him, and then I was thinking, is that his first act of bravery?
He's in there on the tongue.
Is that one of the three?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, I'm going to go
He
be
goes
brave
and ventures out.
and save Geppetto. So Pinocchio finds Geppetto, and he's with Figaro and Cleo. They're about to starve.
You interrupted my topic and said, I'm glad my topic is going to be lighthearted. I don't see lighthearted in this, just so you know. But keep going.
You're right.
This is really dark.
Well, some people think it's the most fucked up children's film of all time.
And I would say debatable because there's so many fucked up Disney movies. There's a lot of them. Maybe
that could be a theme we could go into. So Geppetto, Figaro, and Cleo, they're about to starve to death in the belly of this giant whale. Remember, they're sitting on that like boat thing.
Yeah, on the.
They're trying to fish, but there's nothing.
And I remember the tonsil.
Yeah, because Montro's been asleep.
Yeah, this whole time.
And they're like, we're not gonna eat until Monstro wakes up. So Pinocchio gets in there, and Geppetto is shocked to see Pinocchio's ears, tail, and hear his donkey sounds. And then I was watching this really closely. This is an opportunity for Pinocchio to do the truthfulness and say what happened. And he was about to, but then Geppetto was just like, oh no, it's fine. So I was like, did he actually ever do the truthfulness in this film? I didn't see it. So Pinocchio experts out there, where was the truthfulness?
You didn't see it.
he had the intention of it, but Geppetto shut it down. So Pinocchio has this brilliant plan to start a fire and make Monstro sneeze them out. It's smart. It's a good idea.
I remember that. Yeah.
This works. They do all get sneezed out, but in the tidal wave, while trying to save Geppetto, Pinocchio drowns and dies.
I don't remember that.
There he is, dead, face down in the water.
Jeez, I don't remember that at all.
He dies. He's clearly dead.
What? I don't remember this. I blocked it out because I didn't understand death. I didn't understand death as a child.
This was Disney's first death depicted in one of their films.
I don't even remember Pinocchio dying.
Yeah, he dies. So I think this was Pinocchio's act of selflessness.
Yeah.
Because he died trying to save Geppetto. So when they're all back at home grieving, then the fairy.
Thanks, fairy.
The fairy Snatch decides to
Fairy Snatch.
give Pinocchio the gift of life as a real boy. Like, now it's like, okay, I guess you've earned it. Now that you're fucking dead. What is this movie? Now that you're dead, everybody's devastated.
He ruined everyone's life.
Geppetto is sobbing. Figaro and Cleo are sobbing. Jiminy's sobbing. What in the actual fuck is going on? This is a kid's movie. This is Disney. The happiest place on earth, by the way. Happiest place on earth.
Where children are brought back to life after killing them.
After death.
After they do the most selfless thing possible. They're murdered.
Yeah. So she decides to make him a real boy. So he becomes a real boy. Everybody's happy.
I hate her so much.
I hate her.
I hate her.
I hate her so much.
Leave me dead, bitch.
I just, like, I don't even want it now.
Yeah, like, fuck you. Who are you to say anything?
I don't want your control of me.
No, like, I did that because I wanted to, and if you didn't feel like it was worthwhile to keep me alive prior to that point, then too bad.
Yeah, I fucking hate her. And then what about the other victims of Pleasure Island?
Nothing. They don't matter. They don't have a god
nothing
fairy.
Happens. They're all just like left to continue being trafficked or killed, and the villains, they're just, nobody punishes them. Nothing happens.
No ending other than this one resolution that means nothing.
Nothing happens. Coachmen are still out there. Honest John still out there being honest.
Sort of, and
that's
giving
it.
The bribes. Wow.
Pinocchio, the children's film, celebrated children's film.
Horrifying. I did not remember that he died. I mean, obviously they had to bring him back to life. That's probably just a Disney thing.
But he was fully dead. Like, it was another day.
Well, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, because you mentioned the book, right? So, like, yeah. I bet you he didn't come back to life in the book.
I heard the book, or I read that the book was really bad, and that Pinocchio actually murdered Jiminy Cricket in the book. And that Pinocchio was like an unlikable, like, asshole. So they made him more innocent and like,
like
sort
naive.
of naive. And in the book, he was more like just being a brat.
Mm-hmm.
And he murdered Jiminy Cricket. So
it makes me
I kind of want to read the book.
I know, yeah. Like, all those childhood films they're really dark. The only ones that I can think of that, I mean, even like The Little Mermaid, because that was one that I was like, I can't think of anything horrible about it, but it talks about like her going and doing her own thing, and then she literally gets cut off by her entire family. Like, it's total abandonment by her family. Like, everything has this big.
I didn't like how she left her whole world for a man.
Yeah, right. And then
that affected me.
Does everything for him to be with him.
Yeah, giving up everything.
Yeah.
Her soul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Ursula, like, got her soul, her voice. So
And then she only
What
gets...
kind of fucking message is that for our kids?
Yeah, like you have to meet the needs of a man, or else you're worth nothing.
You're worth nothing.
Yeah, you may as well go back to the bottom of the ocean.
But at the end, did she realize? I don't remember. I haven't seen that for a long time.
It's been a long time.
Did she figure it out?
I don't remember the
I'm gonna
ending of
have to watch
that. I know we have to watch some Disney movies.
I got a Disney Plus subscription for 1 month so I could watch Pinocchio for this podcast.
Okay, so my favorite...
What should I watch during my month of Disney
My
Plus?
favorite Disney movie was... Oh my gosh, am I going to feel... oh gosh, what was it? The Fox and the Hound. I love that movie growing up.
Is that? I think that's another sad one, though.
It is another sad one. There's a lot
Because
of like death and
enemies.
struggle, and they become enemies, but they do end up becoming friends again. But it's like after they sacrifice like their lives for each other, and there's a lot of loss.
I love the Peter Pan with the foxes.
Yeah, that's
I haven't
cute.
seen it though for a long time, but I really liked that when I was little. That was like my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other Disney ones that stood out to me. I mean, Lion King.
Well, not Peter Pan. Was it Peter Pan?
It's not Peter
Robin
Pan.
Hood.
It's the Robin.
Fox Robin Hood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one. It was.
Yes, not the Peter Pan.
With the bear.
But I did like the Peter Pan with the Lost Boys and the Wendy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
but that just wasn't what I was talking about.
No. Yeah, I liked Beauty and the Beast. Like, but that's again like, I mean, that's a message of
be our guest, be our guest. Something.
The rest.
Meet our test.
Be the best.
Fuck the rest. I don't think that's how it goes.
Until next time.
Wish upon a star.
Maybe it'll become a real boy.